I have only been nervous before stepping in for a film with KGF and RRR in the last few years. When films are mounted on a pan-Indian scale with humongous budgets and a lot of expectations from fans, I become hopeful that it's an engaging and entertaining product because a lot of effort and time goes into formulating such projects, and I will always stand for the artist and their creations. KGF Chapter 2 and my relationship with this film has been a roller coaster, as my experience with sequels has been quite the toxic one. Many of the franchises that I loved absolutely ruined their legacy by becoming mind-numbing additions to the otherwise great concepts. But I had a sigh of relief when I got to know that Prashanth Neel had already formulated how Chapter 2 would develop, and despite the increase in scale and budget, has still stayed mostly true to the source material originally envisioned. With the partners of the Kolar goldfields becoming increasingly frustrated with the tyrannical reign of Garuda, they employed Rocky to annihilate their target, and so that they can pursue their greed to tap into the rich and deep pockets of the company. Little did they know that Garuda was only a small road bump in their journey, as Rocky, assimilating with the masses, becomes their messiah and leader of all the operations of the company. As the partners become visibly uncomfortable with the very fact that an outsider has taken over, Adhira, who has always donned the role of an obedient and ruthless soldier, now has his eyes on Rocky and his empire. The conflict that Rocky faces as he becomes more and more powerful, threats that range from a menacing Adhira, the CBI, vengeful partners, and an authoritarian prime minister all account for the journey that we get taken on with KGF Chapter 2. I haven't in a long time had such an overwhelming theatre experience other than RRR, and I can't wait to get into detail about the film with all of you. Of course, this video will have no spoilers. So here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the film so that you guys can ultimately decide. Who am I kidding? You're gonna watch it anyway, so let's go for it. The underwhelming aspects. Minor setbacks. I'm all praise for Ravi Basroor, and I'll actually come to complimenting him a little later in the review, but what I noticed in the first hour of the film was the volume at which the background score assisted the dialogues. There were a few moments where it was tough to comprehend what exactly was being said by the characters because the background score and the reverberation was so intense that you were almost getting heart palpitations at the blaring background score. This dissipates especially in the second half, but was extremely apparent in the initial few minutes of the film. The editing of Prashanth Neel is extremely distinct in both the installments, where there is always a callback or a foreshadowing of what may happen, keeping the audience in the loop of the motivation and what lies ahead, and there is such masterful artistry regarding the same. But there was one instance where I felt like the editing didn't enhance the action sequence the same way, and it involves a car chase sequence where the creators opt to transition to a black screen every 3 seconds and open the scene to a point of impact. The sequence could have been a long-running shot rather than abruptly cutting into a black screen, and would have had the desired impact of an exhilarating chase, at least in my opinion. The rushed jump cuts in the sequence almost take away from the complex choreography. The last thing I want to mention, and that is not even an underwhelming aspect but a demerit that I want to counter, is that many people feel Sanjay Dutt's character Adhira is underdeveloped from a writing standpoint, but I actually think quite the contrary. The stylized and unique depiction of Adhira actually works perfectly to counter Rocky, as we already know since Chapter 1, he has always had eyes on the riches of KGF. The tower-like presence and the Vikings' demeanor and get-up actually increase the impact tenfold for the canvas that is KGF Chapter 2. Forced romantic storyline. The love interest and the development of this subplot has to be the most forced and contrived part of this 2-chapter saga. I understand that the film is meant for the masses and that it essentially requires an integration of a romantic subplot, but the relationship between Rocky and Reena, played by Srinidhi Shetty, is something that I did not connect with in Chapter 1, and in Chapter 2 also actually halts the otherwise fast-paced and exhilarating narrative of the film. This is not to discount the actor and her performance, because she does as the script requires, but the very fact that she is just a ploy to trigger a response from Rocky, and you don't actually root or pine for the couple, as Rocky has much bigger fish to fry rather than romance a woman and even partake in a love song. I think the film would have been as effective if the romantic subplot did not exist. The good. Technical prowess. Commercial mass cinema is often dismissed in social media discourse as if it's the bottom of the barrel cinema, and such kind of reductive thinking actually is representative of ignorance to the medium more than anything else. There is such artistry that goes behind mass commercial cinema that isn't given enough credit, and especially when it is taken seriously by creators like S.S. Rajamouli and Prashanth Neel. Prashanth has this distinct quality with his storytelling where context is provided with immediate flashes to what a character is saying, and oftentimes gives us a hint of what lies ahead within the same dialogue. Speech in a rhythmic fashion assimilates with the background score and his staple reaction shots of the extras that lead to the desired impact with the audience. One of the major reasons why the masses connect with his filmmaking. Every frame, every beat, every dialogue has a purpose that has already been placed in the screenplay, and the result is a highly engaging film that is assisted brilliantly by the cinematography of Bhuvan Goda and the editing of Ujjwal Kulkarni. The fact that Prashanth Neel is working with the same team behind the scenes ever since Ugram is representative of this perfect synergy that translates on the big screen. Ravi Basroor. The music of this film has been raved about ever since the first chapter came out. The background score that is integrated in several of its mass set pieces are something to marvel at and essential to be experienced in theaters. I was only listening to Ravi Basroor's jukebox that included the teaser soundtrack as well as the emotional melody that kicked in whenever Rocky and his mother interact with one another. It makes me think that I would pay good money to see Ravi Basroor ever do a live set because it was a treat to the ears in every shape and form. I can't say the same about the songs, but the background score assisting the action set pieces have to be one of the major reasons why they elevate in quality, and the desired impact in theaters is just to die for. The cast. Yash is a star in every right, and he is Rocky. The swagger that he possesses and the cheeky humor with which he addresses his enemies have to account for several moments that develop hooting and cheering in theaters. He is the quintessential anti-hero that one wants to persevere with and celebrate in this larger-than-life cinema that makes us forget about our real problems, even if only momentarily. You need a lot of confidence and natural charm to pull off a role like Rocky, which can essentially come across as performative and forced, but Yash pulls off the ruffian-turned-gangster and businessman with such ease. I, quite contrary to popular discourse, loved Sanjay Dutt's portrayal of Adhira. His costume design and inspiration of the Vikings works exceptionally well for an intimidating antagonist on the big screen. His growing frustration at Rocky's rise to power, channelized through shouting and screaming to the sky, makes for such a delicious face-off, and I think it works very well for the canvas created for Chapter 2. Raveena Tandon as Ramika Sen has been handed over a very meaty role and playing a character who isn't scared to face off with Rocky head-on, and it has to account for one of her most memorable roles on the big screen. She has spent her entire career playing the romantic interest, and it's about goddamn time she gets her due in a powerful role. Set pieces. There are so many moments that actually represent the artistry that I was talking about when it comes to mass commercial cinema that isn't given enough credit in debates and discussions about movie making. Yash addressing the partners of KGF and scoffing at the perpetual preference to privileged family members, saying the golden word nepotism generated such crazy laughter in the theatre. The one-act play demonstrated to understand why the masses revere Rocky as a leader. Both Rocky and Adhira's introduction shots are something to marvel at from a cinematography and staging point of view. The set piece right after the interval involving Russian ammunition has to be one of the best designed and edited action set pieces I have seen on the big screen in a very long time. The face-off between Rocky and Adhira and the glimpse of Rocky storming into Parliament, something that you saw in the trailer, account for several moments that will make you hysterically hoot and cheer for cinema that genuinely is a celebration of a world that can let us escape, and it's beautiful to see that it's been mastered by the Kannada industry that deserves its due. Prashanth Neel stated that he is heavily inspired by Amitabh Bachchan films of the 70s and the angry young man narrative that showcases an anti-hero who is morally ambiguous and aware, but who leaves no stone unturned in order to achieve his goal, knowing very well the threats and ramifications that come his way. Essentially, the movie is about a goal set out by a son for the bond and love that he had for his mother, and usually movies with such massive set pieces are devoid of the core emotion that engages the audience, but I can safely say that KGF Chapter 2 delivers in that regard. It is a behemoth of a task to deliver an engaging and entertaining sequel to a film that was a mammoth success. Prashanth does deliver the same with flying colours, and Kannada cinema gets the magnum opus that it fully deserves. You don't want to miss this one. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about the movie. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.